Welcome back to the EuroLeague Fantasy Challenge podcast. I am your host, Frankie Sachs. I am joined by my regular co-host, Javier Gancedo. And this time we have a special guest with us. In fact, a two-time special guest.
Absolutely, Frankie. Welcome back, everybody. He did so well the first time around. You were around, but he did so well that we only had to bring him back. Last season's EuroCup Finals MVP, Dreamland Gran Canaria forward, Shurna. Welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, well, let's begin. Gran Canaria started with 10-0, with 10 consecutive wins, and now you've been a bit of a struggle, but you lost 2 games in overtime, nothing to worry about, right? I mean, you're in the Copa del Rey, the team is doing well. Do you have the season right exactly where you want it to be, right?
Obviously we've had a difficult stretch here in the EuroCup. We've lost 2 games in overtime to Ulm and Borg, and another loss at home to Trento, and all really good teams who were the better teams on that night. I think Borg's probably playing the best in our group right now, and the other teams are playing at a high level too. So I think it's one of those things where we have to, the level is going to continue to rise, and we have to match that intensity and continue to play our best. So obviously a difficult moment for us in the EuroCup, but this happens in over the course of a long season.
I would imagine that the positive way to look at it is that if there's any time to have a crisis, it's now, so you can rebuild your momentum heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, fortunately, between your domestic league games and the EuroCup games, it's great preparation in terms of you're playing a high-level opponent each night, especially playing in the Spanish league and in the EuroCup. So it's one of those things where you realize you have to be playing at a high level and you have to bring your best for each game, no matter whatever the opponent's record is. You have to be playing your best basketball and play 100%, or you're going to lose on that night. And that's what we've been finding out here these last couple of games in the EuroCup. But I think we have a good veteran group, so I think hopefully we can find a way to bounce back.
And with so many troubles, you played in Valencia, now you go to Liet Cavaliers to play EuroCup, then you go to Malaga. How does the Fantasy Challenge help to entertain yourself a little bit?
Yeah, I don't know what the EuroLeague guys think of back-to-back double weeks, but for us, we left Saturday, and now we won't get home till the next Sunday. Like you said, we played at Valencia last night, and then we play at Liet Cavaliers, and then we play at Malaga. So we play less games than EuroLeague teams, but I think we're on the road more than they are, just due to the long travels from Gran Canaria.
So that allows you more research time than anybody else for the Fantasy Challenge.
Well, yeah, with my great research, I didn't play Shane Larkin. I've had Shane Larkin on my team for about 3 weeks, and I didn't think he was going to play many minutes in the Real Madrid game just due to double weeks, and he played the most minutes in EuroLeague history. So I don't know how well my research is going. Maybe it's better not to do any research, but no, it's been a fun way to for entertainment, and also to, like I mentioned on the previous podcast, just staying in touch with friends. It's something to talk about, like my former teammates from Valencia here and Andorra. It's been a great EuroLeague season, and looking forward for the rest of the season.
2 things before we start talking about what's going to happen this double week. Last week I beat you, Frankie, finally, by like 40 points. It's a good start of 2024.
Does Frankie mention when he beats you, or is this?
No, because that would be every week. So what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. He has 20 more credits than I have. But what I want to mention is that in my good team, I ranked 40th overall, and 2 of the signings were Sterling Brown, who had a PR of 6, and Shabazz Napier, who had a PR of 2. Then I was 15 points away from first place. If I had just guessed one of the 2 players had a good extra player, I would be not the winner because I cannot win. But even when I cannot win, not being first and having this chance is eating me alive, really. It's all I can think about. I'm like, I'm never going to have anything like this again. But anyway, things are rolling in fantasy for me in 2024. And we have a double week coming up, Frankie.
Yes. So there's it's an interesting week because it's a double week coming on the back of a double week, and we have unlimited trades. So it brings a lot of strategy and different approaches into it. There's a couple things, though, that are interesting about this week, which I think it's perfect to have John on to ask him about. And one is a topic you already brought up, which is the load management of all these guys. Players, not just every player played 2 games last week, a domestic game over the weekend, now 2 more games. But then there's the Real Madrid and the FS guys, who some of them played north of 45 minutes. Larkin played 53 minutes. How do you take that into consideration? Or let me ask you, what's the most you've ever played in a game?
I think I've played mid-30s, so maybe 20 minutes less than what Shane Larkin played, like a whole half less. So I can't compare to what he's going through, especially as a point guard and the focus of the other team's defense. And then playing a domestic league on top of that, like the Real Madrid played Baskonia yesterday in Baskonia. So for them, they had such a deep roster, but still those guys and they ended up coming away with the victory in Baskonia. So I think for them, that's such a veteran team where, you have Tavares, and then Poirier comes off the bit, like a very experienced group that knows how to win, clearly based off that FS game. But playing 50 minutes and then going to Panathinaikos, and then unfortunately FS has had so many injuries, their lineup continues to change. Tyreek Jones coming down with an injury is tough, where guys, they haven't really been able to find chemistry amongst their team, because each night their role is changing. Each guy outside of Larkin, everyone's roles change each game. So I'm curious to see how it goes. I hope everybody stays healthy, and I'm excited to see how it turns out with this double week.
Pleiss also, Tibor Pleiss also played north of 50 minutes in that game.
Yeah,
but they both sat down in the Turkish league game this weekend. Larkin and Pleiss. They didn't play. By the way, Oturu had a.
Well, they didn't sit. They didn't spend any time sitting in the Madrid game, so I'm glad they got a moment to sit and get a little rest.
No, what I'm trying to say is, without Tyreek Jones' first game, Dan Oturu had a PR of 39. This is something to consider. I think Pleiss and Oturu are right now excellent fantasy picks, and I'm even thinking about getting both of them. But I don't know if it's a good idea, because also there's another problem, which is that in this round, you only have 2 games on Wednesday. Mm-hmm. Meaning that options for turn 2 are really limited to just 4 teams. So I don't know.
Yeah, I will say that on my team, I went building, and I specifically got 2 high-priced players playing Wednesday, Toko Shengelia and Josh Nebo, right out of the bat, because I wanted that safety net if something went wrong somewhere else. I could always plug them in. And I think that I'd advise somebody to look for players to look for guys playing on those Wednesdays games to have that. You don't want to go all in on the Tuesday games and get stuck with, as Javi knows, all of a sudden your centers get 0 and there's nothing to do about it.
Yeah, no, 2 weeks ago we had the same situation. Remember that I went with players only from the first turn, but I had to change because Hesunya didn't play, and I had Alpha Diallo in the second turn, and I kind of was forced to put him into captain, and he saved my round basically. So it's always a good idea. My player that I mean, other than Shengelia, I like Bonsi Colson a lot this week because I don't know. I think he can be a mismatch, a small forward against Virtus. So I'm considering him, and I'm thinking I'm gonna buy it for sure.
Yeah, he's been playing excellent for Maccabi the whole season, but especially these last couple of weeks, he's really come on strong. So
yeah. Another thing that is good about the unlimited trades is that you can change your bench. I have players like Ediaitis and people who, I mean, Josep Puerto, that I couldn't get rid of because of the 3 trade limits. But now it's a new day, and I'm buying new players. I have Lacadori of Milan for sure. I got Pleiss as backup center for sure. And let me check, but I also had a new player really cheap Yeah, Mateo Spagnolo. I like Mateo
Okay.
Spagnolo a lot because he's been playing very well. And I think he can only get better. And he plays in Italy this week, so he'll be extra motivated. So these are the cheap players that I'm getting, along with Laren Sakis, who is always on and off, I think, every fantasy team, right?
John,
Yeah,
who are your cheaper players that you've added?
So my mainstays of my team, I've stuck with Moneke and Shingilia basically the whole season. Just, guys that really produce, especially from an index level in this game. Both like very physical guys that finish well around the rim. So I went with the Toru as well. And one guy I signed this week was Hackett. I think he's been playing great for Bologna. I think him and Shingilia are clearly the leaders of that team. And I think I saw Hackett 9 out of his last 10 games has been in double digits for fantasy points. So I think he's a guy, I think he's at 10.8 roughly, is a guy to look at picking up. And then one of the guys with lower fantasy, I went with Lekavicius, who's been, with his new coach, has been playing 20 minutes. And I think for those guys that are lower point fantasy guys, I think if you find guys that play minutes, like 20 minutes, like I had Edwin Jackson for a little while, was a guy like guys that play minutes, and you hope they produce some fantasy points. So, and then I went with the Toru as well and Gillespie as my centers. I'm a little nervous putting two centers playing on the same night, like you mentioned previously, but Gillespie, I had Bowling Boy, but I didn't want to put two centers on the same team, and Gillespie right now at 6 seemed like a guy worth taking a risk on.
Mm-hmm. It's funny that nobody's mentioning Zanan Musa after the game he had. In my good team, I had him as captain. You know why? Because after the first round of games, I checked like the top teams in my fantasy, in my private league, the one I compete against Frankie and against pretty much the entire EuroLeague, and also nobody had Musa. And I said, well, if he plays well, this is going to be huge. And then he didn't play well. He played excellent. He played the best, career best game. So it was awesome. But he also had a PR of 25 last night against Baskonia. So I wonder, what do you think? Is Musa going to stay at this huge level or not really?
For me, I mean, I hope I hope so. There's just so much unknown after playing a 4 overtime game and then playing Baskonia and then going against a team like they play Bayern. So I'm curious how. I'm afraid to pick any of those Madrid or FS guys for the most part outside of Atoru, just because I don't know what the outcome is going to be following that. So I stayed away, but obviously great choices and another guy who's shown he can put up high index value.
I think when you're in a team as loaded as Real Madrid, that there's a risk if you don't have some skill that stands out that they can't replace. Like Tavares, there's only one Tavares, even though they have certainly the best backup center, it looks like in the league. But if Tavares is playing well, then you roll with Tavares. As great as Musa is, you still have a lot of guys who play that position who bring a lot to the table, and it's hard to roll every game on Musa when you have all those guys. So that's what makes me nervous. He could have this game, he could have that game again, but can he do it week in, week out all season? I don't think so. And for the prices you have to pay, I feel like it's a risk. So I don't have him on my team this week, although I wouldn't be stunned if he has another great game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. I think especially following a 4 overtime game, guys' index values were higher, obviously, after playing that many minutes. And for them, now their value in the fantasy game alone, like each value went up. And are they going to maintain that, or are you buying at the high? Because like you mentioned, like Hazonia played great, and Yabusele comes back. Hazonia was MVP of the month in December. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But Yabusele comes back, and that's the beauty of Madrid, where everyone's accepting their roles, but they also can change throughout the season. But it's a team that, like you said, knows how to win.
You know a little bit more about travel and home court advantage as opposed to travel than just about any player on the continent. This week we've got a handful of teams that are playing. Five teams that are playing at home twice. 5 teams are playing on the road twice, and then there's 3 games in round 21 where it's got teams that have been home all week are getting teams that have been on the road all week. I'll tell you who it is. It was Asvel hosting Alba Berlin, Milan hosting Zvezda, and Barcelona hosting Žalgiris. How much of an advantage is it for those 3 teams in that game that are home playing those guys that have been traveling? And is that something you would take into consideration later this week when you're building your team for round 21?
Yeah, I think those teams playing 2 home games, it definitely plays an advantage just in terms of scouting and sleeping in your own bed, like less travel. Just logistically is much better. As well as the one case, with coaching change, might take that into account, just given the dynamic of that team changes once again. But for those other teams playing 2 home games, I would say it's definitely beneficial because when you're on the road, it's perhaps you're able to focus more because you're gone from your family, etc. But it's definitely taxing on the body, I would say. And you're like these guys. You scout maybe one day, or maybe the day of the game you're doing your scout because you played a domestic league game Sunday and now you have a quick turnaround Tuesday. So maybe I assume Monday the team's either traveling or resting and maybe walking through plays. But I think at this point, you're probably just focusing on what your team focusing on yourself as a team as opposed to the opponent.
All right. Well, should we start revealing our teams? Let's begin with the head coach. I'm gonna go first and say that I got Ettore Messina. Milan plays at home against Alba Berlin. They play again at home in the next round. So Messina is my choice. I really think Milan is on the rise. And I think he's gonna win both games, so that's why I'm picking Messina probably for the entire week.
I also have Messina as my head coach. I actually consider Sfairopoulos, and maybe if I look to make some changes last minute, Sfairopoulos is a little bit cheaper, so I might bring him in just for the extra value there. But those are the 2 coaches that right now I'm considering. But Messina is the one on my team for now.
Yeah, I went with. I don't want to butcher his name. I apologize. But the head coach of Red Stars, can you just like you said, due to value, and Red Stars is a team that has really been playing well as of late, and I think looking at their schedule, he might be a coach I keep for a little while. Just they're playing good basketball. So I saw Teodosic got hurt, but I still think for the value and the way they're playing, I went with him.
The one player I recommend, even when I cannot afford it, I'm trying to find a way to squeeze him in somehow. But right now, I don't have him in my team. Is Mike James. I think Mike James playing against a former team at home, being so solid all season, it should be the number 1 choice. And I'm gonna try. Probably I have Bonsi Carlson. I'll probably sell him for a cheaper player so that I can afford Mike James. I don't know. What's your number 1 choice? You have a clean slate. You can choose anybody. So, who are your number 1 picks?
Well, I started my number 1 pick actually was Lekavicius because I wanted to lock in that cheap player when I was building the team, someone who I knew didn't cost a lot and I felt could be on the rise. That's not the answer you expected, but that's the first one I penciled in. But I have Mike James as my captain, and I think that's for all the reasons you said, that's a safe choice for this round.
Yeah, I went with Moneke as my captain. Obviously, a difficult playing his former team, but a difficult matchup facing a physical opponent and playing against John Brown, especially, who's been one of the top defenders in the EuroLeague this season. But he's a guy that with his physicality, I looked at the double weeks as more veteran guys and also guys who might not be jump shooters, guys that are around the basket, getting rebounds, drawing fouls, and Moneke is someone who's been playing at a really high level and who's also, his jump shots really improved too throughout this season. So I think he's really become a much more dynamic player, and he's proving it with the season he's having.
I considered him, but then I went to look, and he had a 0 last time they played.
I did notice that, but like I said, there's been some guys that have been like mainstays on my team, and Moneke, Toko, and I think at this moment I've gone with Kaletis as of late, just a veteran guard who has played for Saras, and he's a guy that knows how to play, and I think at his value, he was at like 10 credits for a while, and if he's on the court for more than 20 minutes, he's a guy that I think good things are going to happen, and you check the stat sheet, and he's gonna fill it up. And it's someone Saras trusts. You know how we mentioned they've been playing double weeks, where in terms of implementing the system you want, I think it's someone he trusts and knows if he puts him out there, he's gonna perform well.
Totally. I found a way to put Mike James while you were talking, by the way, because I didn't notice.
What kind of cheating is going on here behind the scenes?
Also, do you appreciate that he's not listening to you at all? He's just working on his team when you're talking.
Yeah. I assume there's someone behind there doing coding or something somehow. We're cheating the system for you.
I have to say the truth. I didn't consider Lekavicius alone at all. Then I saw 4.8 credits. Are you kidding me? So I replaced him with Espanola. They gave me. I had also an extra credit. So with these 3 credits, I could change Lorenzo Brown with Mike James. So thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, we're happy to help.
All right. So
I'll say at forward, I actually went for Setakurskis, who I think has a lower ceiling than Moneke, but maybe a higher floor, and is a little bit cheaper. And he's been, at this point, he's kind of locked into his price. But going to the beginning of the season, been a steal. If anyone who had him early on, he started the game pretty cheap. But I feel like he gives me solid production at forward, and that's what I was looking for. And plus, I have Toko on the bench, so I'm less worried.
All right. Well, my team finally, and I promise I'm not going to touch it again, is Mike James.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, no. Sure. I mean, you can have injuries and everything, but if not, then I think I have a pretty good team like this. It's going to be Mike James, Lekavicius, then Alpha Diallo, who has been amazing lately, Elijah Bryant, and Tibor Pleiss starting, with Diego Flacadori as 6-man, and Lighty playing round 1, but turn 1, but not being on the bench directly. And in case everything goes wrong, I have Vesely. For whatever reason, Barca is playing 4 consecutive home games, 2 last week and 2 this week. And Vesely has been amazing lately, so I like it. Coulson, like I said, and Larentzakis, who, like I said, I think he's been in every fantasy team at this point. So that's it. That's my team with Messina as coach.
All right, so I'll go next. I have my centers. I've got Jonas Tiemann and Josh Nebo. I did a quick look to see how centers had played against Milan the last couple of weeks. Milan's playing great. They've given up a lot to big men. So I felt that it might be a good week to bring in Tiemann. And if that's a roll of the dice, well, then I've got, again, Josh Nebo on Wednesday. So I'm comfortable with that. My forwards are Setakurskis, Toko, Semi Ojale, and then my last one, just because I ran out of money, is Rafimenko. If I were to make any moves, it would be to replace Rafimenko. Although 2 and 3 rounds ago, he had 7 and 8 PAR, which is not bad for somebody on the bench. So I'm not too worried about it. And at guard, I've got Lekavicius, Mike James, Napier, and Marinkovic.
Nice, I like it. All right, well, John, how about you?
John's got to go, right?
Yeah, wait. Have you made any, Javier? Has there been any changes to your team in this last?
No.
Just.
Wait, let me check. Let me check. No.
So I don't have my team in front of me, but I know I have Atoru and Gillespie at center. Like I said, I had Bolenboy, who's been having an awesome season for Red Star, but I didn't want to Gillespie at his value at 6 credits seemed like a guy to take a flyer on. And Atoru, someone who's been, having to play, I think 4 and 5, given place at center. He's someone who, like I said, around the basket, getting rebounds, and with the unfortunate injury of Jones, I think someone who's going to play a lot of minutes. Previously mentioned Moneke, and then I have, like I said, Kaletas, and I went with Napier as well. I had Melly for the last couple of weeks because he's been playing at such a high level, but I wasn't sure with Napier how the dynamic changes there. So I went with Napier just for a guy who's played great for Milan last year. And I'm trying to think. Like I said, I don't have my team. I know I have Hackett and Toko. Like I said, two guys that have produced the entire year, and the 2 leaders of that team for Bologna, who's been probably, the surprise or one of the best stories of the EuroLeague season so far with how well they've been playing. Lekavicius, I have, is that it? I think I might have 2 more guys, but I don't know who else. But no, I'm excited for the double week. So my team looks great right now, and then I'm sure come Wednesday night I'll be kicking myself for some.
It always looks great on paper.
yeah.
All right, John. Well, good luck in Lithuania. I know you have Lithuanian roots, so it might be exciting for you to go to Panevėžys this week. Very good luck to Gran Canaria, and of course, you're permanently invited to the Fantasy Podcast whenever you want to be back.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it.
Before you go, there's one more question I have to ask you. Have you ever said to an opponent, "You're on my fantasy team"?
No. There was no mention of that yesterday at Valencia. No, can't say I have.
All right. Well, Frankie, wrap it up. What can I say? Thank you very much for everybody. It's been a wild ride so far, and I hope 2024 brings very good things in the fantasy business for everybody.
These are historic times for the game. There's never been anything like this for mid-season to have a complete do-over after so many games, 2 games coming up. So I just hope that this conversation helps people, gives them some ideas, some thoughts as they're putting together their rosters. And let's hope for a nice high-scoring game, and it'll be nice to see you try and beat me again, Javi.
Well, the conversation certainly helped me. Changed my through, so yeah. All right. Very good luck to everybody, and see you guys next week.